I always get my coffee from the same place, a little corner shop 2 blocks from the office. The barista knows my order, black, no sugar, but I like to watch her move behind the counter, stacking cups, wiping the drip tray with the same motion she's been using for 10 years. Today, she's not there. Instead, it's her. She's leaning on the counter, mid-40s, hair pulled into a loose bun, sleeves rolled up just above her elbows. She's not wearing a name tag, but I know her. My boss. Or maybe that's how she feels in my head. Distant, commanding, impossible to read. She looks up when I step closer. Her eyes flick to my hand, then back to mine, and I feel my fingers curl around the cup a little tighter than necessary. "Morning," she says. Her voice is even, a little tired, like she didn't expect anyone to talk to her. Morning," I say. I clear my throat. I'm not sure why my voice sounds smaller than usual. She smiles faintly, just the corner of her mouth, like she's remembering something but doesn't want to admit it. "You take it black?" she asks, but it's not really a question. I nod. "Yeah, thanks." She doesn't make a big deal out of it, doesn't linger with a forced small talk. I find myself noticing her hands. They're resting on the counter, veins faintly visible, knuckles soft but strong. I catch myself folding a napkin in my pocket, pretending it's busy work. I sit at my usual table, the one near the window where the light slants across the floorboards, and sip my coffee slowly. My phone buzzes in my pocket. A text from a friend I don't feel like answering. I stare out the window, but really I'm thinking about her. About the way she always seems to remember the small details, even when she looks like she isn't paying attention. A few minutes later, she comes over, carrying a stack of papers. Her heels click softly on the floor, and I glance up without meaning to. She catches my eyes for a fraction of a second, then glances away, straightening a loose paper on her clipboard. "You left this last week," she says, sliding a folder toward me. The paper rattles lightly on the table. My fingers brush hers as I pick it up. Quick, but enough to notice. "Thanks," I murmur. My thumb lingers on the edge of the folder, then I pull back. Her eyes meet mine again, just for a heartbeat, and there's a softness there. Not pity, not amusement, something quieter. Maybe curiosity. I fold my hands around the coffee cup, staring into it as if it could answer the question buzzing in my head. What do I even say to her without sounding like an idiot? "You're working late again?" she asks, voice lower now, just above the hum of the espresso machine. I shrug. "Sometimes. Just paperwork." My words feel clumsy. "Don't make it a habit," she says. Her tone isn't sharp. It's almost a warning wrapped in concern. And maybe that's what unsettles me. She cares enough to notice, but not enough to intervene. I catch myself flicking my eyes toward her hands again, noticing how she taps her fingers on the folder, a rhythm that seems familiar, like a song I half remember. She straightens and moves toward the door. "See you at the office," she says, but there's a pause before she leaves. A pause that makes the air feel heavier. I sit there longer than I should, staring at the space she occupied. The coffee cools. My thumb taps against the folder's edge. Then my phone buzzes again. A message. From her. Work overtime on my desk. I blink, heart ticking a little too fast, and stare at the words. And for a moment, nothing else exists. Here's part 2, following your Kitako style, male POV, and slow burn emotional layering. I didn't expect her to come into my office that afternoon. The fluorescent lights buzz faintly, the kind of white that makes everything feel sharper than it is. She carries a small thermos and 2 chipped mugs, like she's been doing this for years, like it's just part of her routine. "Thought you might need a refill," she says, placing one mug in front of me, the other in hers. Steam curls up, smelling faintly of cinnamon and something warm I can't place. I nod, fumbling with the handle. "Thanks." I didn't. My words stumble. I never know what to say when she's here, and the air feels too thin to hold a conversation. She leans against the edge of the desk, arms folded casually, but not too casually. There's a pause before she says, "I used to drink tea like this with my father. Every Sunday morning, he'd bring it in bed. Not fancy, just hot water, a bag of something cheap. I look at her, surprised. Something in her tone is soft, but not sentimental, a memory shared almost reluctantly. Her gaze drifts to the corner of the office, and for a moment, it's like she's back in that kitchen, the smell of boiled tea and old curtains. I didn't know, I say, unsure if I'm supposed to add anything. She shrugs, a small smile flickering. Not many do. Doesn't mean much. Just, mornings were quiet. We sip in silence. I notice how her fingers curl around the mug, and I catch myself imagining tracing the lines in her hands. The thought is sudden and uncomfortable. I shove it away, remind myself she's my boss. She's more than that, complicated in ways I'm not supposed to touch. The thermos hisses softly as she tilts it to pour herself more tea. She catches my glance, smiles faintly, like she knows what I'm thinking but doesn't say it. There's a stack of papers I was supposed to sort, and she kneels beside my chair to reach one. Her hand brushes mine briefly, and I freeze, not because of the touch itself, but because of everything it implies. It's safe. It's dangerous. The line between them feels thinner than the paper she's handing me. You always leave your desk like this, she says lightly, glancing at the scattered papers. But her tone is teasing, not reproachful. I half smile, feeling a warmth I haven't felt in months. I imagine other moments, impossible ones, her laughing across the desk, leaning closer when no one else is around. The thought shocks me. I push it back, into the corner of my mind where I store all the quiet, forbidden ideas that aren't supposed to exist. She stands straight again, brushing her hair back, and for a heartbeat, our eyes meet. She tilts her head slightly, a small gesture, nothing dramatic. But it lingers. I feel it longer than I should. I'll see you later, she says softly, and when she leaves, the echo of her footsteps feels heavier than it should. I pick up my mug again, warm in my hands, and realize my coffee has gone cold. My thumb traces the rim, slow, almost hesitant. I don't know why that moment stayed with me. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me. It was late afternoon when I noticed she lingered by the doorway longer than usual. The office smelled faintly of printer toner and the stale coffee we never quite finished. Papers stacked high like they were guarding some invisible line between us. I can, help with the reports, I said, voice low, unsure if it was an offer or a warning. She shook her head, not quite meeting my eyes. Her fingers tapped on the edge of the desk, light, irregular. No, you've got your work. I'll handle it. I nodded, pretending to focus on a spreadsheet, but my gaze kept drifting to her. She moved closer, organizing files with deliberate slowness. Each time her sleeve brushed my arm, I felt the air tighten like it had its own pulse. I wanted to say something, anything, but my throat was dry, and the words collapsed before they left my mouth. Then the office door clicked. One of the interns, cheerful and oblivious, popped her head in. Hey, just wanted to, she froze, taking in the scene. The way we were both still, like someone had pressed pause. Her eyes flicked from me to her. Then she laughed nervously, backing out. Never mind. The sound left a hollow echo. Silence stretched longer than it should have. My hand hovered over a stack of papers, tapping a rhythm I couldn't quite hear. I caught her watching me, that faint, unreadable look she sometimes carried when she thought I wouldn't notice. Are you okay? I asked, almost a whisper, unsure if I was asking about the reports or her. She glanced down, shaking her head. I'm fine. Really, fine. The word felt brittle. I wanted to reach out, but my hand stayed folded over the keyboard. She moved again, leaning slightly toward the printer. The scent of her perfume, something soft, maybe lavender, hit me unexpectedly. I imagined her closer, closer still, until her hand brushed mine on the folder we were both reaching for. The contact lasted a fraction of a second, but it pulled all the air from my lungs. Her eyes flicked up, searching my face, and I realized she hadn't pulled away. Not yet. My chest tightened. I imagined it. Leaning closer, just enough, the world narrowing to her gaze, her scent, the brush of her fingers. Almost. But the sound of my phone buzzing snapped something in me. The folder slipped slightly from my hand. I caught it reflexively. My pulse was loud, maybe too loud. She straightened, smoothing the edge of her sleeve over her wrist, and muttered, "I should get back to it." I nodded, staring at the spot where she had been standing, my hands trembling slightly as I adjusted the papers. I wanted to say something, anything, but the words disappeared into the hum of the fluorescent lights. I didn't know if she meant to step back, or if the pause between us had just paused. I only knew the moment lingered, too close to nothing, and I couldn't tell if I wanted it to end or stretch a little longer. It was the kind of evening where the sun didn't really set but softened everything, brushing the sidewalk with pale gold. I walked behind her, careful not to crowd the space between us, though every instinct in me wanted to close it. "You always take this route," I said, voice low, unsure if it was an observation or a warning. She glanced at me, just once, a half-smile playing at the corner of her lips. "It's quieter, easier to think." I nodded, but I couldn't stop noticing the way she tucked her hair behind her ear, the small crease by her temple that appeared when she focused. My chest tightened. I wanted to ask her something impossible, but the words got caught somewhere in the rhythm of our steps. We stopped at a bench by the river. She leaned back slightly, arms crossed loosely, eyes tracing the reflections on the water. I perched on the edge, hands folded awkwardly in my lap. The air smelled faintly of damp leaves and cold brick. I started, then stopped. My voice felt strange, like it belonged to someone else. She turned slightly, patient but aware, letting the pause stretch. I can't stop thinking," I said finally, words clumsy, faltering. "About you. About this." My hand twitched in my lap. "I don't know if I should." Her eyes softened, and for a moment, I thought she might reach out. She didn't. "Not yet." "I know," she whispered. Not a confession, not a denial, just acknowledgement. The world felt smaller. A trash can rattled somewhere in the distance. A dog barked faintly. She sighed, like letting air out of a balloon slowly, carefully. I worry," she said after a beat. "I worry about crossing lines I shouldn't. About making this messy." I nodded, my hands tightening. "Yeah, me too. Every day, I imagine things I know I shouldn't." My words faltered again, the truth hovering like a fragile bird above my tongue. She looked down at her hands, then back at me. "I don't want to hurt you," she said quietly. Her thumb brushed the edge of the bench. A small, unconscious motion. I wanted to reach for her, just to touch her hand, her arm, her shoulder. Something tiny. But I didn't. I let the space between us hum with everything unspoken. "I keep wondering." I trailed off, glancing at her face, the shadow of evening softening her features. "If you ever feel the same?" Her gaze flicked away, toward the water. A pause, long enough to stretch like a thin wire across the river. She didn't answer, and I didn't move closer. We stayed there, two bodies leaning slightly toward each other, each carrying the weight of words we couldn't or wouldn't say. The question hung, not spoken, but there. Would she ever say it first? The week after the bench, she was different. Not colder, exactly, just careful. I caught it in the way she answered emails, clipped, almost perfunctory. Her smiles were fewer, shorter, and I noticed them vanish the moment I looked directly. I stopped dropping by her office. Not intentionally. It just felt like every step toward her might undo something I wasn't ready to fix. I missed the easy rhythm we had, the quiet tea, the half-shared jokes, the brush of hands on folders. It made the silence at her desk heavier than it had ever been. One evening, I stayed late, staring at the screen while my coffee went cold. My phone buzzed with a text I didn't recognize. "I can't tonight. Sorry." No name. I assumed it was her. My chest tightened, a dull pressure that left no space for anger, only uncertainty. I imagined reasons. Too tired, busy, maybe she'd remembered something from her past. A child, an ex, responsibilities I didn't know about. I didn't ask. I didn't want to hear an answer that might undo the small hope I still carried. The next day, she avoided the corner where we usually cross paths. I hovered by the printer longer than necessary, scanning the stacks of papers she might need. I almost laughed at myself for pretending to care about the copier's jam. Then came the whisper, a snippet from someone in the office kitchen. "She's busy, life stuff." That was all. I didn't press. I couldn't. I kept imagining what life stuff could mean. A divorce, a child, someone else she couldn't tell me about. Each scenario pushed my chest tighter, but my feet stayed planted, frozen at the edge of wanting. Lunch felt different. My usual table by the window felt empty. I sipped my coffee slowly, letting the warm liquid anchor me while my mind replayed the bench, her gaze, the way she'd looked away at the last second. I typed a message on my phone, then deleted it. Typed it again. Deleted it. "Are you avoiding me? I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I miss you." Each attempt ended the same way, unsent. That evening, the office emptied faster than usual. I lingered by the door, hoping she might appear, hoping the rhythm would pick back up, even for a second. But she didn't. The desk where she usually left her mug was empty, the chair tucked in neatly. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused, like life forgot to finish the sentence. I walked past the window she always lingered by, a reflection of me staring back, holding the empty thermos she had brought once, like a ghost of closeness that didn't exist anymore. I left the office lights on, a small, almost invisible trace that someone had been here. I didn't knock. I didn't text. I just left, and the empty seat by the desk felt heavier than anything I could name. The rain had started lightly, drizzling against the office windows as I lingered by the doorway. She was standing inside, sorting files on her desk, sleeves rolled up, hair damp from running her hands through it. I hesitated, the weight of the past week pressing against my chest. Every step forward felt like stepping on glass. Can we talk?" I said finally, my voice too loud in the quiet room. She looked up, startled, then softened. "Yeah," she said. Her tone wasn't clipped, not defensive, just cautious. I stepped closer, careful. Every instinct told me to stop, but every thought told me to reach her. I've been, I don't know, pushing or something. I don't want to mess things up." My hands twisted nervously at my sides. Her gaze dropped to the desk, then back to mine. "You didn't mess anything up," she said slowly. I wasn't sure what this, whatever this, is supposed to be. I wanted to tell her everything, to name it, to explain the ache I'd carried every day for a week. But words were heavy. Instead, I gestured at the folder she'd left open, leaning slightly closer, letting my hand brush hers. Not daring, not claiming, just present. Her eyes met mine again, steady now. She started, then paused. The room felt smaller, warmer, the rain against the window fading into background noise. "I like spending time with you," I said finally, low and careful. Not dramatic, just true. More than I should, maybe. My thumb brushed the edge of the desk, deliberate but small. She exhaled softly, and a weight seemed to lift from her shoulders. Okay," she whispered. A smile flickered, brief but real. Not forced, not perfect, but enough. We didn't step closer, didn't cross any lines that night. But the air shifted, quietly, subtly. The tension that had pulled at my chest all week loosened. A small connection settled between us, enough to make the space feel shared. I realized I'd been holding my breath without noticing. Now I exhaled slowly. The rain tapped a gentle rhythm against the window, and I felt relieved, maybe, or just lighter. She picked up her mug, tilting it toward me without words. I mirrored her motion with my own. A silent acknowledgement. No declarations. No promises. Just a fragile understanding. "I'll see you tomorrow?" I asked softly, though I didn't need the answer immediately. "Yeah," she said, simple. "Okay. Enough." I left the office that night feeling both heavier and lighter, carrying the quiet weight of something spoken and something left unsaid. The connection wasn't perfect. It wasn't complete. But it was ours, fragile and real, and that was enough. Months later, the office hum had settled into a rhythm that felt like home. She still arrived early, black coffee in hand, hair pulled back loosely, sleeves rolled just above her elbows. I still lingered near the printer, pretending to organize papers, though now it wasn't to catch her attention. It was just part of the routine we'd quietly built together. Some mornings, like 8:47 a.m., we met by the bench outside the building before the crowd arrived. We didn't say much, sometimes just shared the same space, a small thermos between us, steam curling like memory. Sometimes a joke, half lost, half heard. That was enough. She never dramatized anything. She just noticed. The folder I left open, my coffee cup tilting too far on the edge of the desk, the way my sleeves always rolled down too far. And I noticed her, too. The small lines at the corner of her eyes, the curve of her fingers as she adjusted her hair, the quiet laugh she gave when she thought no one was watching. The near misses, the unsent messages, the pauses that had once stretched like wires between us, they had faded. Not erased, not forgotten, but tempered into something quieter, more solid. The weight of unsaid words had been replaced with gestures, shared tea, a hand brushing lightly against mine when we reached for the same folder, a glance that lingered just long enough. One afternoon, we found ourselves at the bench again, the river catching sunlight in slow, gentle waves. I handed her the thermos. She poured the tea, and for a moment, it felt like the first time, like discovering a space that was ours alone. But now, there was no tension, no hesitance, just familiarity, quiet, and the tiny pulse of care that had grown between us over weeks, months, small moments that added up into something steady. She smiled at me, not dramatically, not knowingly, just soft and real. I returned it. My hand brushed hers briefly as we adjusted the cups, and it was enough. That touch carried years of conversation that had never been spoken aloud. I sipped my coffee, black as always, and noticed her doing the same, the familiar bitter warmth anchoring us. Life wasn't perfect. We had responsibilities, habits, occasional silent irritations, but it was ours. Grounded, warm, real. I realized then that the story wasn't about moments of grand declaration or cinematic confession. It had always been about noticing, small choices, and shared quietness. The bench, the thermos, the 8:47 a.m. routine. Everything else was just noise. And in that quiet, I finally felt at peace. Not because everything was solved, not because the world had changed, but because she was there, and she stayed. I looked at her, she looked at me, and neither needed more words. Some things are understood only by the two who live them.